Good morning, 7th grade math. This is lesson 9 from our workbook, and you can find this on page 35 of the workbook. Today we'll be looking at example 1 and example 2 from lesson 9. So, our objective for lesson 9 is I can represent proportional relationships with equations. Okay, let's read our first example, Jackson's birdhouses. Jackson and his grandfather constructed a model for a birdhouse. Many of their neighbors offered to buy the birdhouses. Jackson decided that building birdhouses could help him earn money for his summer camp, but he is not sure how long it will take him to finish all of the requests for birdhouses. If Jackson can build 7 birdhouses in 5 hours, write an equation that will allow Jackson to calculate the time it will take him to build any given number of birdhouses, assuming he works at a constant rate. So once again, we find a problem with lots of text. So let's annotate the important information from this text. Okay, so we'll underline 7 birdhouses in 5 hours. And what we're looking for is the time it will take him to build any given number of birdhouses. And one additional piece of information, he's working at a constant rate. So let's take a look at part A of this problem. Write an equation that you could find out how long it will take him to build any number of birdhouses. Pause the video now and write what do you think the variables will be for this equation. So we have 2 variables we're looking at in this equation. One, we have B, which will represent our birdhouses, or the number of birdhouses, and H will equal the number of hours. At this time, please pause the video and try and determine what do you think the constant of proportionality will be for this equation. Now I'm going to go over the constant of proportionality. So let's take a look at the original question and figure out what is this looking for. So if we were to say, and take a look at the problem, what we underlined, the time it will take to build any given number of birdhouses. So in this equation, what we're looking for is the time per birdhouse. Okay, so our time per birdhouse. And so we need to take a look again at our equation, and we see, our problem, and we see the time per birdhouse. So we know 5 over 7. Which gives us 0.71, which means that it takes Jackson 5/7 of an hour to build one birdhouse. We could also find this in minutes. We know that 5 divided by 7 times 60 minutes gives us 43 minutes to build one birdhouse. Our constant proportionality will equal 5/7. Another way to look at constant proportionality is K equals the dependent variable divided by the independent variable. We know that K is equal to y over x. In this equation, y will be equal to hours, and x will be equal to b birdhouses, which is our 7. Our equation will be h equals 5/7 times b. Now let's take a look at part B. And part B is asking how many birdhouses can Jackson build in 40 hours. We know our equation is h equals 5/7 times b. If h equals 40 hours, we'll substitute that for h. If 40 equals 5/7 times b. In order to get b by itself, we'll multiply both sides by 7/5. 40 7/5 times 5/7 times b. These two cancel each other out. So since they cancel each other out, we'll go ahead and delete this section. So we end up with 7/5 times 40. And so we know 7/5 times 40 is equal to 56, which equals our number of birdhouses. So we'll add a sentence below. Jackson can build 56 birdhouses in 40 hours. Now let's look at part C of example number 1. How long will it take Jackson to build 35 birdhouses? Use the equation from part A to solve the problem. So we know we're looking for 35 birdhouses. We'll underline that information. And let's use our equation. H equals 5/7 times b. We know b is equal to 35. H is equal to 5/7 times 35. H is equal to 25. So we know it will take Jackson 25 hours to build 35 birdhouses. Now let's look at part D of example number 1. How long will it take to build 71 birdhouses? So we know this is important information. So we'll go ahead and underline that. Use the equation from part A to solve the problem. So once again, H is equal to 5 over 7 times B. B is equal to 71. H is equal to 5 over 7 times 71, which equals, H is equal to 50.7. Now, what do we do with this 0.7? So we know it's 50.7 hours. So we have 0.7 is equal to 7 over 10 hours. 7 over 10 times 60 minutes per hour gives us 42 minutes. It will take Jackson 50 hours and 42 minutes to build 71 birdhouses. Now, when you're thinking of this type of problem, remember, Jackson can work for a fractional part of an hour, but customers will not want to buy a partially built birdhouse. Some numbers can be left as non-integer answers, such as parts of an hour that can be written as minutes, but others must be rounded to whole numbers. For example, the number of birdhouses completed or sold. All of this depends on